Hello everyone, welcome back. So I've been taking part in June on the Range, which was created by Michael K. Vaughan. It's an event to celebrate Westerns, and I've read 3 so far. I actually kind of cheated and I read 1 at the end of May, and it's the first book I'll be talking about, The Broken Gun by Louis L'Amour. And so this is a book about a writer in 1966 or 65. He goes on TV and he brings up how he's in, I think, Arizona or New Mexico to search for. He didn't want to tell anybody this, but the interviewer kind of wormed it out of him. He wants to find out about the Toomey brothers. So 90 years before this, the Toomey brothers had herded a bunch of cattle into this part of the state and disappeared, and nobody knows what happened to them. And so he is woken up in the middle of the night in his motel room because a man has been killed right outside, and he had the writer's name in his pocket. And then he doesn't know who this guy is or what he wanted or anything like that. And it's not unusual because people come up to him all the time to talk to him because he's a writer, and he's a lot like Louis L'Amour. But then he is invited out to this huge ranch where these brothers went missing 90 years before. And it quickly becomes apparent that the owner of this ranch, which is absolutely massive, it's 15 miles just from where his land starts to his house. And it quickly becomes apparent that the people who own this house want to get rid of him. And he meets a lady there who is actually their sister-in-law, but her sister, who was married to the owner's brother, has died recently. And she tells him to take a hike, get lost. You don't need to be here. This is bad. Leave as soon as you possibly can. And so he gets warning after warning like that of, hey, you don't need to be here. And he meets one mean person after another, and he just kind of can't accept what's going on. And so basically they have brought him out here to kill him, not to show him around or anything like that. They want to get rid of him. And it quickly becomes apparent. And instead of taking off, running for the hills, he just kind of goes along with it. And what they don't know about him, they think he's just a lame writer, college boy. They insult him repeatedly. And of course, one of the brothers is like this huge, hulking football player who went to Harvard or someplace and was a really serious athlete. And he is going to beat the tar out of him, of course. And what they don't know about the writer is that he is a serious individual. He grew up on a ranch in Montana. He joined the military. He was he's basically a commando. He was in some kind of commando team in Berlin in the 50s. He went to Vietnam and trained indigenous troops there in Vietnam. And so he's a serious dude. He's got bullet holes in him. He's experienced. He's much more experienced than they are. And they pick a fight with him. And I would love to say that it's just him on this huge fight with them, but it's not quite like that. Louis L'Amour could be kind of, I'm not going to say timid, because timid isn't the right word. He could be sort of cinematic in the way he deals with plots like this. His villains never seem vile enough. They never seem villainous enough. So what happens repeatedly in this is they try to make it look like an accident when they're trying to kill this guy. But they're out in the middle of nowhere. They're 15 miles out in the middle of nowhere. And he gets captured repeatedly and then gets away. And it gets to the point where you're thinking, at one point the villain takes them and locks them in his house and goes to dinner. You know, suddenly he has become this huge threat because their whole ranch rests on what he might or might not find out. And instead of getting rid of this massive threat to their huge multi-million-dollar ranch, they go to dinner and they get away. So, and there's a lot of talking, a lot of pompous kind of discussions about what we're going to do with you and why, and it becomes this battle of wills between the writer and the owner and his brother and the owner's wife, who is also extremely dangerous. And this happens repeatedly, and it really wears down the tension. And towards the end, he does get in a fight with the jock, but it's after the point where that would have made any sense. So this is not one of Lamore's better novels, but it was enjoyable. And I mean, I did enjoy it, and there are enjoyable parts. So I thought I'd read an excerpt here. Now it was no longer merely a story I wanted. At first I had been unwilling to believe what was happening to me, and then had been desperately occupied with making an escape. Now I was getting thoroughly mad. Anger was stirring deep within me. There had been flashes of dislike, irritation, and fear, but the anger that came to me now was no sudden emotion that would pass off. It was a deep, abiding anger with the desire to strike back hard. Nothing in life had ever taught me to fight merely to win. This had to be more than victory. I was, I told myself, an easygoing man. The old knockabout days were gone, the war a thing of the past. Violence had been put behind me. I was a civilized human being. But now I had been set upon. I had been attacked and had been forced to run, and how I hated the thought. I had been forced to hide. I had been taunted and shot at. Above all, and this offended my ego, I had been taken lightly. But now I had a deeper purpose. The mere story was no longer the important thing. Now I wanted to uncover what they were trying so desperately to hide, and to destroy them with it. In the back of my mind, however, there was something else. There were two men named Toomey who had driven their cattle west, only to be, if my guess was right, murdered and robbed. Somehow in reading and rereading these few pages of the journal, and delving into their former lives in Texas, I had found a real affection for those two strong, independent men who carried on in the best American tradition. Yes, I will admit it. Along with my anger, there was a definite desire to avenge them, to prove they had not failed. So it's okay. It's entertaining. I don't care for the cinematic, pompous, let me tell you what I'm going to do, instead of just taking you out and getting rid of you like I should moments. I felt like that drained the tension, but I did enjoy it. And Louis L'Amour was really good at writing like the wilderness and dealing with horses and that sort of thing is really good as far as that goes. The plot, not my favorite. So the next book I read was Edge Number One, The Loner by George G. Gilman, who was a British writer. It's a pseudonym. I can't remember his actual name right now. While he was there, some of the men he was fighting with, he was their officer. They realized that he was sending his money back home into Iowa, and so they go to Iowa and they kill his younger brother. And Edge has spent the last 3 years fighting and killing people in this war. So by the time this book starts, he says he's killed 56 men, I believe. Which reminds me of Cotton Hill. So he goes home and finds out that his brother has been murdered by these men that he knows, and he snaps. And he just goes on a rampage, basically, and anyone who gets in his way or annoys him, he shoots or cuts. And it's a very violent book, and to be honest, I felt that the violence was gratuitous, and I felt that Edge was not a sympathetic character, even though we know what has sent him over the edge. I think that weakened the story overall, because if we can't feel sympathy for Edge, because he's doing bad things. He's hurting people that don't need to be hurt. He's killing people who haven't done anything to him, really. And so Edge is not really a sympathetic character. It's an interesting book. I don't know if it's well written exactly, but it's entertaining. I just felt like the gratuitous violence weakened the story overall. So this is more violent than the other Edge that I read several years back. I have another one. I'll probably read it, but if it's like this one, I don't know if I would continue in this series. And the next one I read was Longarm number 97, Longarm in the Mexican Lineup. So this is an adult Western. It's supposed to be more violent and have some spicy scenes in it and that sort of thing. And it was violent, and it had some sex in it. And, you know, I felt like the sex didn't really add anything to the plot, except there was one instance where a lady seduces him because he has a map that she wants, and then she tries to shoot him in the middle of everything going on. That was okay. The rest was kind of unnecessary, I thought, and the book would have worked just fine without the rest. And it's all very short. It's only like a paragraph or two, so it's not like super over the top or anything like that, but it is explicit. And in this one, Longarm is sent down to Mexico to help the rurales, like the rural police in Mexico, and kind of like the Rangers, like the Texas Rangers, but in Mexico. And they're described as being very corrupt, a lot of them. And he gets down there, he's sent down there to identify a bandit called the Desert Eagle. And when he gets there, he finds out that it's actually somebody he has been on adventures with before. It's not the Desert Eagle at all. It's a guy that was just using that name because he was wanted for something, and he thought he might get off easier if he used a different name. So it's about Longarm bringing his friend out of jail and getting him back into Texas. And I liked this entire book, but I didn't care for the ending, and I won't spoil the ending, but it just didn't really make sense to me in regard to the rest of the book. But I would definitely read another Longarm book, and I actually have another one I just bought because I want to give this another shake. And there are over 400 of these, and a lot of different authors wrote them because Tabor Evans is a house name. I'm not sure who wrote this one. It doesn't say, and I couldn't find out. So yeah, I would definitely read more Longarm books. And I can see why people read these, but I don't think they are, you know, like I said in my June on the Range Pile of Possibilities video, my dad started reading one of these and said, my God, it's a porno book. Now, at least this one, I wouldn't go that far. Like I said, it does have some sexual elements in it, some explicit sex in it, but it's not filthy by any means compared to a lot of books today. And so that is Longarm in the Mexican Lineup. And what I'm reading right now is Salvation Gap and Other Western Classics by Owen Wister. So Owen Wister actually saw the Old West, and these were published in the 1890s, I believe. I'm on the third story. And it's kind of neat because he was friends with the painter Frederick Remington, and so it's illustrated with Frederick Remington paintings, and that's one on the cover there. And Frederick Remington is maybe the most famous of all the Old West painters, and his paintings go for a lot of money. So anyway, that is my June on the Range update, and I'm going to read some more Westerns in June. And I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.